Welcome, this is Cold Grip in Virginia. We're going to do a review of the Beretta Nano today. The Nano, if you've been living under a rock somewhere, is Beretta's entry into the concealed carry marketplace in a big way. Nice little gun. Here we are, here's the box straight from the store. Inside it does have a plastic case, and this I've already taken it out. This isn't fresh. Inside the case we've got a little spacer, 2 magazines, which I always appreciate. This is your lock. There's also a manual and the usual material inside. No spent casing. I'm here in Virginia, so that's not required in Virginia, but just was interesting. There's no cartridge. In order to lock back, the Nano only locks back on an empty cartridge, but you can see that there is no that the chamber is clear, and we have an empty magazine. So I originally went looking for the Nano. When they originally announced it, it was an interesting concept. You know, usually you take the marketing with a grain of salt, but I have to say that first impressions are that this Nano is very solid, has a good feel in your hand. It's a nice weight, and I'll show you some of my other guns and the reason why I was looking for a Nano in the first place. So, why was I looking for a Nano in the first place? Well, my concealed carry weapons consisted of a Ruger LCP, and again, you can see nothing in the chamber. Actually, no magazine. And this is a nice little gun, but it's very, very difficult to fire. I'll talk a little bit more about that. As a matter of fact, the first time I went out on the range with my girlfriend, she actually has a very long trigger pull. She actually was on the range, hot weapon, and pulling the trigger and, you know, going like this because she was, you know, triggering it improperly, but triggering it in the crook of her finger. And the distance here and the grip is so small that she thought the gun didn't work. She was doing this number, and it would not fire. So, concerned a little bit about that. I mean, obviously, she needs to train with the weapon. However, in all honesty, she's not likely to train like I am. So, you know, that concerned me a little bit. This is a great gun to carry, stick in your pocket. If you put this inside your waistband, I mean, it disappears. You can see the difference here between the LCP and the Nano. Hold that up. The Nano is a little bit longer. The grip is a little bit longer. So, and this is just a very lightweight gun, but very, very difficult to handle, and not fun to shoot on the range at all. I mean, it barks quite a bit, a lot of snap, and so it has its place. It's very nice for, like I say, sticking it in your pocket, putting a pair of cargo pants, and it would disappear. But and it's 380. I should say that the Nano obviously is 9mm. That's 380. It's nice to have a 9mm. I also have Smith & Wesson M&P Compact. Again, empty chamber, no magazine. And this is a very nice gun. Put this inside your waistband, and it it conceals very nicely. You can see this is slightly larger than the Nano. And actually, give you some stats here in terms of the LCP. LCP is 3.6 inches high. It's 5.16 inches long and has a width of 0.82. The Nano is 4.17, so about a half an inch taller. It's 5.63, so about a half an inch longer. Although, you know, the difference, to be honest with you, looks more than that, but it's about a half an inch longer. It's 0.9 in width, so just slightly wider, not even a tenth of an inch wider. And this weighs 17.67, so about 17.5 ounces, a little bit more than a pound. This is 9 ounces empty, both of them empty. So you get maybe a pound and a quarter when you get a magazine and bullets in the Nano. The M&P, on the other hand, is about an inch taller, about an inch longer than the Nano. It's about the same height, about a tenth of an inch taller, and you can just see it's really just this extension of the magazine that makes it any taller. The grip is essentially the same length, same height. Interesting, the sight radius, which I think is something that's important in a small gun. Sight radius on the Nano is 4.92. That's 4.92 inches, and I'm going to put these a little spreadsheet up to give you all these numbers. But it's fairly good sight radius. A little bit less than the M&P, but a whole lot more than this LCP. Even the sights on the LCP are essentially worthless. But this little gun is intended to be used in very close range. But difficult to sight with the LCP. So those were my weapons. I wanted the Nano because I wanted something a little bit smaller. This is great on the weekends when I'm wearing my blue jeans, a sweatshirt or something, or even a dark t-shirt will conceal it just fine. But it's a little heavier. You know, when you got a full magazine in there, you're probably right at a pound and a half, maybe a little bit slightly more than that. And it's not terrible, but it you notice it weighs on your pants. This Nano is great inside the waistband. And you read a lot about the sleek design and no snag, and I really didn't think too much of that. But I really like it now that I have it. It's really nice. More than anything else, I don't know that snagging on the draw has been any sort of an issue, but it just conceals nicely inside the waistband. It just disappears. There's no bumps, no nothing. Makes it very comfortable. Also, you hear Beretta talking about how durable it is, and I will say, as I said, this just feels solid as a rock. I mean, there's nothing loose about this gun. It's very tight. It fires nicely. I did have an issue with some jamming when I first got it, but I put some videos up about that. But that related to the weight of the bullets that I was using. Nano said that this gun is designed for 124 grain or heavier bullet, and since I started using that, I've had zero problems. I've probably put 800 rounds through it since then and had no jams whatsoever. So I think that took care of that. And a lot of people don't like, or at least have commented on the web, that the slide will not lock back. There's no external slide lock except with an empty magazine. So it locks back automatically on an empty magazine. Then you have to rack the slide in order. You have to slingshot it to re-engage. And some folks don't like that because they feel like it's faster to use a manual slide release here if they were in a combat situation. Personally, that's not a big issue for me. I'm a private citizen, discreetly carrying. I don't know that I hope never to have to utilize my weapon, but if I do, I can't imagine too many situations where I'm going to be in a real firefight. I rarely carry extra magazines, which probably should, but I don't. Again, my intent for this is for personal defense, and statistics show that most of the time in any sort of when a weapon is used, it's typically 2 or 3 shots fired, and that's the end of it. So I guess if I get embroiled in a firefight, I'm going to head for cover and try to disengage as quickly as possible, because I'm not coming with a lot of firepower. That being said, that's why on the weekends I typically carry my M&P. It carries 12 rounds. The Beretta Nano, 6 rounds, and obviously +1 for all of them in the chamber. And the LCP, 6 rounds. So what else can we say about the Beretta Nano? Hear Ben Cook talk about it's over-engineered, or engineering is over-engineered to the ridiculous, or something along those lines. And again, I can't tell you how much I like the feel of this gun. It is incredibly solid. I saw an interview with one of the engineers from Beretta, and one of the things he talked about was the barrel and the materials that they used to make the barrel. And he said they worked with combinations of metals, and what they ended up with was something that wasn't typically used in guns, so something different. He said I was impressed that part of their validity testing was what he called a plugged bore test, and in which they jammed a bullet into the end of the weapon to clog it, as to kind of simulate a squib. They loaded another round in, and they fired, and the barrel had to withstand that blast and not split, not explode. So I think that's an example of the over-engineering that Ben Cook talks about, and again, you can feel it in the gun. It's just a great, solid gun. Some of the things I don't like, but had to get used to. The Nano has a fairly long trigger pull. I don't have any snap caps with me. Beretta advises not to dry fire without a snap cap, so I tend to follow the manufacturer's recommendations. But it has a very long trigger pull, and it taken me a little while to get used to it actually on the range. But now that I am, it's very nice solid trigger pull. My M&P has a very very short trigger pull. A little bit lighter, I'd say, than the Nano. So kind of two different triggers. Took me a little while to get used to. The recoil on the Nano, shooting this thing is a pleasure. You talk about the LCP, that thing barks like a big dog. This is very, very smooth. Really, I don't find much difference between shooting my M&P versus shooting this Nano. I have fired the Glock 26. I fired the Walther PPS, which I considered purchasing in lieu of the Nano. I fired the Ruger LC9, which I also considered firing. The LC9, it fires very, not horrible, but it kicks quite a bit as well. I didn't really like that. You can feel the recoil much more with the LC9. The PPS, has its own issues, price being one of them. Very, very nice gun. Obviously, can't say too much wrong about the Walther. But I don't care. I'm not a big fan of finger grooves on the grip, and it's fairly rough grip. And while it's not as bad as the LC9, the recoil is actually a little bit worse, I would say, than the Nano. I can't tell you that Nano does have a double spring, recoil spring inside, so I don't know whether that has anything to do with it, but it's just I'm sure the weight of the gun is partly responsible, but it fires very nicely. I go down and fire a couple of hundred rounds on the range, no problem. I could easily fire a couple of hundred more. So very, very nice to fire, very accurate weapon. and I'm going to tag some video onto this of shooting it at the range. I'll shoot all of the weapons on the range. So hope you've enjoyed this review of the Beretta Nano. I really love the gun. It's become my everyday carry. Again, I work in a business environment, so I'm typically in dress clothes. So when I am able to carry, this Nano is very discreet. On the weekends, I opt for my M&P just because I get more rounds, and while I don't ever intend to be involved in any sort of firefight, never a bad thing to have more rounds on you, so I carry that, take a little more firepower with me on the weekends. So I hope you've enjoyed the review. This is Cold Grip in Virginia, where the tradition to carry carries on. Please leave your comments and any questions below. Happy to hear from you, and subscribe.